You know.
Thank you so much.
So allow me to introduce Tarun, Puri.
Hi guys.
The boss man, Hugo Boss, Michael Kors, Choubey, Mr. Choubey from BMW, and Vivek, the gentleman I was telling you about this morning. Very, very kind. He's ex-Swarovski, but then he's on to something very interesting he'll share with you now. So why don't we begin with you, Vivek?
Oh, okay. That was quick. Sure. So I'm Vivek from Chennai originally, and been living here for a while. So career-wise, what do I say? So actually, I'm totally not from luxury or anything originally. So I'm not like you guys are training to be in this field, which is amazing, and that's why I've always supported. I thought it's actually quite amazing to do something like this. I've quite serendipitously landed here. So first few years of my career was in analytics actually. So I used to do a lot of work. I used to write algorithms, code, stuff like that. And then I got a bit bored. Used to do all sorts of consumer analytics work. It was pre-social media days for Pepsi and Coke, and so all this kind of stuff. So I used to live on this, like what size the can should be, how many facings should be on the shelf, and how the shopping behavior work, all of that. Then I did my MBA, and then after that I was in McKinsey for a while, so based in Middle East and South Africa. So that was a great experience, and then I got this urge that somehow I want to, I'm not happy just telling people what to do, and it's nice to actually learn and jump across the other side. And I joined Swarovski. That was a separate story how I got there. So I was in strategy for a while, and I came to India. I was running India business, then I was running the Middle East, Southeast Asia, India business totally. And then I left last year in June, and then I've started a separate venture now. So it's a startup. We're in couture inspired and consciously made jewelry. So focusing a lot on that right now. So very much in very different startup mode, and so it's great. It's a lot of fun. So this is a really big my story.
So how do you sort of say conscious living? How do you sort of define that as conscious jewelry?
Okay. So there's an interesting thing in jewelry, right? Like let's take say India for instance as a market. Big market, 60, 70, 80, whatever, $1 billion market. The 90% of it is dominated with gold, right? And we are fanatically obsessed with gold. Indians are the second largest consumers of gold globally, and also diamonds. And year after year, whatever, that's not really changing, right? And which is a separate great story in itself. But there's another side to it, which is that extracting gold from mines is extremely destructive for the environment. So, a simple 22 carat plain gold ring, if you extract just the gold for that, so a ring like this wasn't gold, would have generated more than 20 tons of cyanide and mercury into the atmosphere. And then on top of that, there are more than 150 million tons of just carbon emissions. And that's just gold, and then whatever goes on for diamonds and other stones and so on. My feeling was that, and having been in this kind of space for a while, like jewelry is something that you cherish because of its design, because of how it makes you feel, and what role it plays at certain points of time in your life. Either that, or it's something you have fun with to accessorize, whichever way, right? You can achieve all of that without going through this, and hence, so what we do is basically we take metals that were not mined for jewelry in the first place, right? They were metals which were used already for some industrial purpose, largely automobiles or construction equipment and so on. Then base metals, right? And then we basically, it's recycled, repurposed, and that's what we use. So when we say conscious jewelry, we try not to use these words, sustainable, conscious, etc. Technically, all we say is that our jewelry has a lower mining footprint than its counterpart, and that's what we want to do. So if we can take away, so any occasion where somebody would have bought a piece of gold jewelry. If that was converted to this, besides us growing our business, then yeah, I believe that there is some good also that is happening. So that's
okay. My name is Vidhan. Okay, and just to give you a little background about me, I passed out from Shriram College of Commerce, did my MBA, and I joined a company called Apollo Tires. It was the first company I worked for, and that was a great experience for me because Apollo had launched radial tires that kind of time. Radial tires, गाड़ी में जो लगते हैं, that's called radials. And I was the first employee of Apollo, where I was supposed to do a door-to-door sales for tires, which is a very difficult thing. Okay, so the first job I had, there was a big boss there called Omkar Singh, and the first day when I joined, the person gave me a task of going home to home in Delhi and selling tires, carrying it in my hand. यहाँ पे भी tire, wherever the tire is burned out, you see that, you spot that tire, and then you go to the home, and then you sell those tires. Then the very first month of my career, I sold 800 tires door to door, and that is called a tire spotting scheme. So I'm just giving you an example where when you really do hard work, you can really succeed. It's a very different concept. So after that, I was promoted within the organization. I got a big award that point of time. And that was the first job. Then I moved various organizations. I worked for a French company called Value, a German company called Henkel in Germany. Then I worked for a big oil company in America called Chevron Corporation. And I worked for 15 years with them. I was based out of India initially, and I was, so Chevron is a very large company. It's $400 billion corporation. Okay. So every year they choose about 50 people globally to be mentored for global promotions. So I was picked up from India and I was promoted to Asia Pacific role, where I was placed out of Singapore, moved to a global role in that organization as a marketing manager with them for the OEM business, that is car companies supplying oil to the car companies. So that was a very great assignment where I traveled almost 195 countries during that span of 15 years. Mostly all the countries I visited. So I think that's another big experience. When you really travel, you really learn. I think that's one of the big advantages of working with large companies. Chevron did a restructuring and we were asked to either go back home or take a salary package. I took a salary package and came back to India. I worked for a real estate company in Bombay, Lodha. I don't know if you heard that name. It's a luxury real estate brand. So I was the first employee of Lodha when I moved back from Singapore. I developed that company from a very affordable housing homes to a luxury brand. So there were 12 projects I launched in that company. All were luxury, about 20 crores each apartment in Bombay. And that was the first luxury interaction I had. Other companies were more transactional. After that, after Lodha assignment, I moved to BMW. I worked for a short time in Porsche in Mumbai. Then I moved back to BMW in India. Working for the last 6 years now in BMW. So BMW is, I don't know whether it needs any introduction. It is one of the best brands globally, rated as top value brands now. And in India, it is not holding the #1 position yet. Mercedes is leading in India, but globally BMW is way ahead. Okay.
Okay, that makes me a lot nervous after looking at so many years of experience. I have just worked in 3 companies. So my first company was a bank, 10 months. I hated it. I left it in 10 months. Second company was 13 years. That was sporting goods, Adidas. I loved working there. Loved the culture, the vibe, maybe everything special we could do out of India. And past 3.5 years, I joined a company called Reliance. Most of you may have heard about it. If you've not, then we're not doing a good job. and we can't work harder. So there is Reliance is basically into multiple businesses. They started off as a petrochemical company. They diversified into Jio, which is of course the number one mobile player in India today. Tough fight with Airtel. And the third part, which developed, which Mr. Amani had his vision, was retail, which is of course something that has generated a lot of, I would say, opportunities in this country. One for the consumer, second for people who wanted to work in retail. I've seen that journey for the 3-4 years. I represent Reliance Brands. This is a part of a larger Reliance Retail division. And while we are part of Reliance Retail, we work on a one-arm distance with the Reliance Retail division, because the speciality of Reliance Retail is growing huge, is being mass, and being the number one player in every segment possible. Just to give you an example, Reliance Retail is the number one retail company in India. It's bigger than the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh company put together. That's how large the company is. In that particular space, we are creating a niche around the luxury, rich to luxury and premium brands. So as on last count, 2 days back, we are running 71 brands in the country. A lot of them, around 20 plus, are digital first brands. I'm sure your generation would know much about digital native brands. So they are brands which we are only running on e-commerce. We're going to do small pop-ups. We're not going to open exclusive stores or boutiques. As you know, this country is weaker on infrastructure. That's the first limitation that retail brings you. So amongst those 71 brands, I handled some 3-4 brand relationships. Very proud of them. So I'm sure you guys got exposed yesterday to a few of them. If you still want to understand them more, I'm happy to arrange more meetings, interactions with you guys, no problems. So Hugo Boss, Michael Kors, Tumi, soon to be launched Balenciaga. These 4-5 brands. I also handled the relationship between Adidas and Reliance, because when I went from Adidas, my boss said that you spent 13 years there. We've not done any sports. Bring something on the table, and that's when I brought in Adidas relationship with Reliance brands. We now run the license for the kids part of Adidas in the country. Yeah, so it's a development which took 2 years. The longest that Reliance would have negotiated with someone, and the longest Adidas would have negotiated with someone. But we finally said that we appreciate you as a retailer, and they appreciate us as a retailer. We appreciate them as a brand. So why not start doing something together? So that's when Adidas Kids came to the fold.
COVID, how did Reliance sort of take care of employees, and how was the business impacted? Is it really making change now? What are the plans in terms of what special skills these students should learn besides what the previous generation already learned?
Sure. So I'm not saying for the sake of saying it, but Reliance really took care of its employees in the last 2 years. I think I still remember the day one when the first lockdown happened. Within our company, there was a group formed. I was part of the group, so I was more closer to it. And there was a clear instruction: whatever you want to spend, however you want to spend, whatever you want to do, no approvals, no going through anything. You need something tomorrow. You want to create backups, but every person, their family, or even people who they know, who are nowhere related to Reliance, should get support if they reach out to us. So I think that's something which created a lot of confidence in people. I think, we, for example, day one when oxygen concentrators is a very big story in India, people were black. They were buying from the black market, people were supplying whatever. There's someone caught in Delhi, and maybe, I don't know, I'm not going deep into whether it was right or wrong. But at that time, we were buying at double the market price without thinking who needs it, who doesn't need it. We, for example, bought 10 machines, there was always 5 machines were never used. Then, of course, our Bombay infrastructure rolled into this. We run hospitals in Bombay. So there were COVID facilities which were created. The entire RCP, if you heard about Reliance Corporate Park, it's a mothership. While Apple or Nike and all these offices, they talk a lot and market their offices, but it's an opportunity or a once in a lifetime experience if you want to visit Reliance Corporate Park. It's a huge 600-acre property where we run our offices. That was converted into completely a no work and medical aid zone. Not even that, when the vaccines were a problem, when a lot of people in the country were thinking, when will India get the vaccines and everything, Reliance had bought 3 different vaccines from global. One of them never landed because there was government norms and all that. All that money on that vaccine was wasted. But we said that the day our family or an extended family needs something, there should be vaccines available. And we were, I think, one of the first companies where the employees were vaccinated. We didn't speak too much about it. Oxygen production, I can just go on and on about, we converted our facilities into oxygen production facilities. I can only tell you Mr. Ambani and Mrs. Ambani and the family was too deep into forget business, this is our first priority. And that they meant, and it flowed right till the end. So anyone unfortunately, fatally passing away or someone, they would get that kind of perks that maybe their family would have never imagined. So they were supporting everyone. So that's the first part of it. Second, how the industry, more relevant to you guys would be how the industry went through it. It was a very tough time for the industry. And I'm talking about an industry which is not only from a retail perspective, but Indian designers, restaurants, food, travel. Today also, like for example, I travel in cabs all the time. I'm traveling all the time that I'm doing my work, and I tend to have conversations when I go to cities, because that is where I tend to find out what's the undercurrent of the city. Is this the style that I've adopted? So still people will tell you that they're still affected by that. The effect has not gone away. A lot of people have, who owned cabs, have sold cabs. A lot of people who had them on rent did not have anything they did not have work or anything. A lot of restaurants shut down, folded, became from restaurants to cloud kitchens, from cloud kitchens to nothing. So there was a lot of misery, as I would call it, in the system. What has come back? Luxury, uber luxury, bridge to luxury. These 3 categories clearly have come back much stronger than what they were in 2019. I can't share the performance numbers. I'm just going through the appraisal in the next 1 week with my boss, but the numbers are just fantastic. It's so good that we have to commit numbers for next year, which everyone's thinking that with travel opening and everything, will you be able to reach? So that's one big thing which has happened, which has helped luxury, bridge to luxury, that people have got trapped in the country. So a lot of people would go to London and buy, and Italy and buy, and US and buy. All those people were here. So a lot of people came to our stores, and we have a tracking system, and when you're billing, we ask for your mobile number. So a lot of time when the billing was happening, it was coming as a first time buyer. So for example, at a Michael Kors store, I was standing when there were queues outside, and I was at the cash counter, and the person came new, but she was carrying a Michael Kors bag already. So I just tend to introduce myself and said, you're a new customer, what you're carrying, is it a gift? She said, no, I always buy it out of US. So that's a big push that the industry has got because of this lockdown. Nobody would talk to you about what has happened positive. This is a big positive. Second thing is, a lot of people have got now experiences in the country. You buy a suit from Hugo Boss from London, you come back, and then you have to run around pillar and post. We are not a very fit country, at least I'm not a very fit guy. So we will keep going 6 months, 1 year, and then thoda sa isko, adjust it a bit and do this a bit, and unfortunately that's the thing. So when they bought from India, they got calls from our team saying, do you need something? It's been 6 months that you bought it. Do you want a refit? And he said, do you guys do it? We said, no questions asked, come to us 10 times. Even if you got an old Hugo Boss suit you didn't buy from us in India, bring it along. So those are also the opportunities where brands repivoted and said that, do I have customer first in my mind or not? And customers are very smart. They will read it out. And of course, there were a lot of tools. Just to end the point, Abhay told me also was distance selling. This is one tool all global companies really adopted. How to sell virtually became a very, very, very important tool. E-commerce, I think you would have heard about it in many ways. I don't have to take time. If there is time, I can talk about e-commerce as well. But distance selling has become a key route to reaching out customers.
Said virtual selling and video selling and distance selling, all are terms which sort of really hit the roof in the last 2 years. Now it's going to the next stage, and we're talking about metaverse and NFT and all those things are really coming in. So where do you see all that? You're explaining the beautiful mall that you guys are building in Mumbai. So do you think that is going to disrupt in a major way? Sales are going to get disrupted, physical sales?
So, 2-3 clear perspectives. I was lucky enough to be in a conversation with the CEO of Meta few days back. He spoke to all of us. We were having offsite, so he joined and he spoke to us because we were very interested. They're partners with us with Reliance as well. So he was also speaking to us. I think the magic of physical retail, we are very, very clear, will not go away. People will still want to come to stores, touch and feel products, touch and feel cars, touch and feel handbags, want to understand how the suit looks, try it on. That's an experience. People want to go out of their homes. As a species, human beings, you cannot keep them in their homes, right? You get the lockdown over and you'll soon, in the malls, you'll see what's happened, what suddenly happened. So that's the kind of, we are social animals. You would have studied not in this school, but in your school that we are all social animals. So the magic is not going away, but it is important that magic has to be a real magic now. So the experience that you get in offline and the experience that you get in online, what do you think is better? The experience. The experience online is much superior. It's very smooth. If you want to buy something, you want to select products, you want to compare, you want to see features, you want to pay online, it comes to your home. There is nothing like an online experience. What offline has to do is to match up to that experience in the store itself. How do you greet a customer? How do you probe? How do you sell the customer? How do you say the warm goodbye? How do you follow up after that product has been sold? It's something very, very critical. And it is all about relationship building now. So all the luxury brands, digital luxury brands, what do I see in potential candidates who work with us are people who, if once किसी ने मेरे से Hugo Boss का सूट ले लिया, that person will prefer buying from me rather than online at a 10% discount. That's the level that you have to do in terms of experience. E-commerce as a space, I would say there were a lot of brands in India or globally who did want to sell in India on e-commerce. Ajio Lux is a website that we started and we especially got permissions from Ferragamo of the world, Jimmy Choo of the world, Bottega of the world. It's the first time that they started selling online because we assured them that you will get the right adjacencies, the right respect. The problem with India still is that e-commerce is the first step of anyone wanting to buy a product which they aspire for or maybe they daily need but at a certain special price. Whether we talk about it or we don't talk about it, when you first go online, you're waiting when the last checkout there is a coupon to apply or a discount to apply or a special offer to be there. And trust me, it is there with that person who wants to buy a crore rupee car also.
You understand how Toyota thinks. It's a very, very simple process. It is nothing complicated, no digital communication at that point of time, no communication on email. It is only verbal and physical. Okay? When I walked into a Lexus showroom, I chose a color, I chose a car, and I said I want this car now. Sorry sir, the car is not available now. And we will get the car in 3 months' time. So 3 months you cannot really wait. So that was the communication, initial communication. Within 5 minutes of my moving out, I was not even sitting in my car yet. Somebody from the manager comes from Toyota office and talks to me. So we're very sorry about it. And we really know you want this color. We really know about it. So let us try to arrange it for the Toyota factory. Okay? That was the second communication. By the time I reach home, there is a person from Toyota who is already put in a letter at my home saying a sorry message, says sorry for this kind of a communication, which we didn't have an option to do this. So that was the third message. By the time I reached home, there was already a person who was sent separately in a motorcycle to put in the letter. Within 3 days, there was a call from Toyota factory in Japan. It was the production manager calling me, sir, we are trying to arrange a color for you specifically and give us about a week's time. We will let you know the next step. Exactly in week's time, Toyota Corporation President called me saying, sir, we have arranged this car for you. Kindly collect it on such and such date from our office. And then there was a note, there was a flower bouquet which was sent at my home saying, sorry for this gap. We know that you were not very happy day one and we want to make you happy. And that relationship still continues. I still get a regular communication on my birthday or whatever. So I'm just telling you how Toyota builds the customer for life. So they made a customer for life. I will never ever buy any other car other than Toyota. I will never buy a Honda. I will never buy a Mercedes. You understand?
You ride a BMW?
I have Toyota also. I personally drive Toyota always. So I'm just giving you an example how these big companies, it's a very simple concept. They have not done something great. It is just the way they communicate. And that gives you the good feel which you get. And that you can never match through any other campaign. It is only one-on-one personal touch at the right time.
I've seen lots of other boutique, small, very creative and high-end brands as well. It's a big challenge because somewhere 2-3 things happen, right?
Recording in progress.
India is this very unforgiving market, it's looking for that best price, it's looking for so that stuff. But that mindset is also changing, you know the best. And so that's a good thing. But then again, if you start on e-commerce, e-commerce, the same person, like fully, the same person who's buying the 1 crore car, suddenly he comes online and then you just expect coupons and sign on discounts and stuff like that. Indians, we as in we have ruined this e-commerce space a little bit, right? This quest for just customer acquisition and this speed and all that. I fully agree. Nothing is more convenient than an online experience. Absolutely nothing. A slick website, everything, information when you need, thing comes right at your doorstep. That's amazing, right? But we've got corrupted with discounts and this and that. So to create that separate identity online is a big challenge. And but I think the future. I believe you're starting the program now. All I'll say is learn all about the digital. Absolutely important. It's a code. Today you can't say something about marketing without knowing digital. That's a given. But read a lot about how the old brands were formed. What was the story behind Chanel?
As I was saying, human touch is new to us. People are tired of machines. People are tired of try calling a bank and then you go through playing with numbers and then you say, "Yeah, मेरे को बात करा दो किसी से." So human contact is really the new format of luxury, and as what Vivek sir was saying, that eventually we are in the business of making people feel good and feel comfortable. So all the luxury spends are going up because people believe kal ho na ho. Why do I want to save money? Might as well buy the best car today, the best bag today. So that's the reason why more high value products are selling than lower value products, because everyone within the capacity of his pocket, he or she wants to buy the best. That's why sales in luxury are booming. It's not only in India, it's worldwide. So the phenomenon of getting trapped at your homes is not only for India, it is for Europe, it's for US, it's for China, it's for Hong Kong, it's for any country in the world.
You guys also go for the promotion thing, already you are at top, I know that, but still, social media is somewhere around the corner, and even if your brand isn't selling, still you use that platform so you still use this as a platform for marketing.
I think it's not a relevant question. It's not a relevant question. I think if you ask me, hoardings have gone off, newspaper ads have gone off, luxury magazines have become more editorial, but digital is, so for example, I have a mandate with my team. It's 90% digital, 10% PR. If you really want to ask me how I divide my budget, so if we are ever seen in our Indian publication in a hard copy, it's mandate to us from global.
Yeah.
Otherwise we won't be there. And how they think is, for example, they know, for example, Michael Kors, every March and September edition of Vogue across the world, it has to be there. But this year I told Michael Kors, sorry, I'm not going to do it from next time. Because this is India. Then now, so when I joined in, they used to look at every person who joined and wanted to approve every person meeting them. But also telling you what is the strength of India today versus these brands. Now they don't. They know what India is and what kind of growth plans we have and everything. I went to Dubai to meet the new chief sales officer of Hugo Boss. They did a big digital event, if you may call it. Read about it, what Hugo Boss is doing currently in the past 3-4 months, the stars they've signed and everything. He just met two people one-on-one on a table. One was from Dubai, the UAE joint venture partner, where they almost are like the ministry. Second was Reliance. That's it. He didn't meet Russia, he didn't meet this country, that country, whatever country. And as Mr. Ambani said, I don't want to continue or acknowledge the story what he said. That will make me lose my job. But Mr. Ambani feels we're in the beginning of a 50-year-old journey.
Yes.
It's not even he's saying it's just begun. So for a lot of people, because we grow from humble roots, I was not born with a silver spoon. I've been building my career, my life, my family, my assets. I sometimes feel very proud that India has reached here. From where they say this is just the beginning. It's going to be another level altogether. And I'm again saying, the earlier you get into the system, the more senior you will become in the industry. There will be brands which will be dependent on you. Abhi to hamare pe, what are we as a percentage of global turnover? 1%, 2%. But there will be a rare brand which will be 2%. And I'm talking about sporting brands. I don't know about luxury cars, but a 1% was a factor. India is just 1%. You are going to be the generation when in senior positions when India will start becoming 15% of the world turnover. So remember this as that opportunity.
No, and smart brands, they realize that, they notice that, right? So he's talking of the Hugo Boss guy, meeting him now. I'm talking of 2008 or 2009. India, I was presenting India. Donatella Versace met only few people. I was one of them. Long back, 2008. So they see the potential of where India can go. Of course, that time I had 8 stores also. That's different now. They are just one. They'll get to 8 stores also. You see a photograph of Donatella there in the downplay. So the point is, smart businesses, they realize that India is going to happen. So it's a matter of time, and you guys are the inflection point. You and the next generation. Things will change drastically.
And more so because we are aligned in a certain way. You see the conflict that is happening in the world, India is unaffected.
Yeah.
That's the strength of India. Whatever happens in whichever part of the world, due thanks to how we've started right from independence, we're not aligned to any country. And we're also doing self-dependence. While it came on as a very political fund.
After everyone's done with revenge shopping and travel restrictions are lifted up and every country is open for travel now. So do we think that people who were buying here just because of the travel restrictions and the sales shot up, so now after the restrictions are going to be gone, so these people are going to travel back again and they would love to buy from Europe and the other countries. Do we think it is going to affect the sales of brands and in some way it will affect the sales and or they'll expect us to match up the European standards in the Latin
I
levels?
hope it does not. Nobody knows whether it will affect or not, but if you really ask me, someone who used to buy a LV or a Gucci bag from Paris or London earlier and had to buy it in India now, when they travel back to London or Paris not buy, they will definitely buy.
Yes.
Some of them will definitely have that preference. But what we are looking at, if you look at the customer space, it's like a triangle, right? More the population is increasing, the younger population is earning. And as Abhay and a lot of panelists said that, they want to live life, they want to spend. So the faster, the movement between, and I'm sure you talk about luxury bridge to luxury division at least. I'm saying the time they used to take to first come to a 5,000 rupee bag, to a 10,000 rupee bag, to a 15,000, to a 20,000. They used to spend half their life reaching up to a 20,000 rupee bag. Maybe not even reach there. Now the generation with the first money or the first salary they earn, they are so brand conscious. They want to buy a Gucci bag or a Chanel fragrance and all. Because this generation is also about how am I being looked on. The earlier generation was not that. So one of the big changes which is going to come is men, for example. And coming back to the men, I don't want to make you feel bad. The way men are going to dress, the way men are going to be conscious about themselves is going to change a huge way. So I'm saying there is a lot of changes which are happening which should offset the travel based buying which is going to get lost. So the behavioral changes or wanting to spend rather than save for the next generation is big enough for me to think that the business is going to grow higher.
Plus, I think what he said sometime back, Tarun said sometime back that in the 2 years of COVID, if you form the relationship with the brand, the customer, then the customer will say, to hell with it, I'll go back to Bhavya and buy. After all, the same bag or the same garment is available with Bhavya. Why should I go to a Choubey and buy?
And you know what happens? When Bhavya moves from a Jimmy Choo store to a Bottega store,
She carries the customer.
the Bottega customer, he becomes a Bottega customer. It's so strong. It's not the brand, it's the person. We're going to open Valentino in Emporio very soon. We just took over Versace and we're rechristening the effort that it's going to see in India. Balenciaga is one of them. There's one announcement which is pending, which you will hear very soon in the eyewear space. I'm not here to substantiate that, but that's coming. A very big beauty brand is under discussion. At any point of time, we're discussing with at least 20-25 brands. At any time.
So like India is going to boom with luxury brands.
I'm again repeating for the sake of repetition, we are at the beginning of a 15-year-old journey. And the last 10 years have been disappointing. Because since I have been in retail, I've been hearing India will become number 2, number 3, number 2. I'm sure all of us have been hearing that. It's been disappointing. But this particular trigger, what has happened, I think, and also stable government. I'm not saying whether the government or the political party is good, bad or ugly, but I'm saying stability is also something that this country needed. Now whether it came from one party or the other party is something else. But now there is economic reform. Nitin Gadkari, by the way, we're fortunate enough to be in one of the forums with him thinking about Gurgaon. Exceptional leader. Exceptional.
What vision?
And he had 3 years ago, he told in a Times of India conference in Gurgaon that I'm going to change the way roads are in India. There were murmurs in the public, एक और politician आ गया, कुछ बोलेगा जाएगा. Trust me, what he's done, and he's committing that in the next 2 years, India will have better roads than the US. And he said that's what defines a developed country. He said I'm going to do it. And no nonsense leader, no dikhawa, nothing. Just very humble, brilliant guy. So I'm just saying we have some good things going with us. Let's take advantage of that. This was my company and this was an audience. If you kept quiet, you missed a chance. There is nothing right or wrong in life but speak. There's nothing right or wrong but never be the person who starts the question answer session thinking कि मैं पूरे resume में चुप रहूँगा. Remember, because this is the wrong career choice if you are in that. You convert yourself if you want to, but ask. This is an inquisitive mind. By the way, customers will come to you or people will come to you and they just want to speak to someone who is very nice and is very open.
Very true.
The way I will buy a BMW or a Mercedes might just be the person who might need a BMW or Mercedes.
The individual who sells, not the product.
So I'm just saying, talk, think, speak. Very important.
I need to ask that what are the major qualities we need to inculcate in ourselves to reach your level?
So there is no level, at least I will say that there is no level. We are also thinking about other levels, right? It's a constant journey. But I would first, very important thing, what I have taken away from him, and I have talked about my boss, who's a very known figure in the fashion fraternity in India. Read. You have to read what's happening. You have to travel. You have to invest in yourself. If you've not traveled to various places which actually sell luxury in a tourist forms, it could be you just go to maybe go to Dubai. That's the cheapest that you can go to, right? But go to Mall of Dubai, spend 2 days over there. If you not have too much pocket money, take the cheapest of hotels. But the entire days, go when the mall opens at 11 and be there till 9. Just keep observing what is there. Not as a tourist, but what's happening in retail. Traveling is very important. Third thing is, according to me, you should get inspired from people who are just 2-3 years before you, rather than people who are like 20 years before you. You will always get overawed. So I will create a reference of the person who I need to be with, right? The person I want to be. and rest follows up. So spend time in stores, meet the store managers, store leaders. They spend 10 years, 15 years there. Ask them what is success.
Sometimes, no, I'll work only with this brand. I'll work only with these.
Yeah.
You know, who defined all of these things? Actually, luxury brand is some industry word, you know, and it's a helpful classification of certain brands. But ultimately, I think you think of this as a business school. You're becoming business professionals. Yeah, you're trying to get into brands which have maybe more of a dimension of connect and story and emotional appeal than the average. Every brand, by the way, has. Toyota is a great example, right? So there's no superior or inferior in brands. Chanel is not a superior brand to Toyota. I mean, we know exactly, probably it's the latter, even, right? But it's, so I think that's my one. We should be open. What tomorrow we consider as luxury could be different. You know, in the next 5-10 years, then a very, you know, some exclusive brand with a big boutique and like 2 armored guards and like, so maybe it's going to be a more open, more, I don't know. Nobody knows, lots of theories, but we should be open about it. I don't know what I would say. There's no definition of luxury which is really enshrined. That's my view.
True. You can't stereotype it. So I mean, what he's trying to say is that there are stereotypes formed in your mind. They are very generic, but then it's also very fluid. It's very dynamic.
So another plus point with you guys is that you have people like us sitting with you. We never had such kind of panelists.
Yeah.
So you have an opportunity to talk to people like us. Go the right way. हमारा जो training हुआ ना, it is just by default. It is nothing that we planned that way. So you guys can plan your career.
In online shopping experience, like we face challenges like fit size, like if I am ordering, but if I go to offline store, I can check at the store and I can save the time. I can check and I can buy. But in online, the fit size is the biggest drawback. So like still you will say that the online experience is better than offline experience.
See, why I say that is because you took out one disadvantage that I cannot, in a men's ready-to-wear category.
Yeah,
Take for example, right? You are saying it's an inconvenience about my size. Ask the ladies there if they want to buy a handbag. And if they stay in Noida and the only store that they can go to is Emporio, and they have to travel 1.5 hours by car, park their vehicle in a mall which charges them 200 rupees on parking. When they go in that mall, they have to eat also because that's the social pressure. That will cost them 1,800 rupees. They still go and they stand outside the store which there is a queue. You come there to spend 25,000, 50,000 rupees and you're standing in a queue because there are too many customers in the store. Then you buy it and then you take it back, right? And the next day somebody tells you, your mother tells you, your friend tells you, "Acha nahi lag raha." Okay, the brand has a return policy. Now what do? I again get into the car. I again go back to Emporio. I again do this. I again do. What's happening in online is that return. It's not the best unit economics for a brand or for the profitability. But so simple. Now we're talking about, earlier we were talking about 2 weeks delivery. We started thinking and investing. Now we are, for example, Reliance, you were saying, you look at who we invest into, who we buy out and everything. We're investing into last mile delivery in a big way, right? We're talking about if you place an order in Delhi, the brand is in Delhi, we deliver at your home in 2 hours. So the pain point goes away. So if you buy a Hugo Boss, for example, and you talk to that person and say, I'm not sure about that size, distance selling, for example, is you go through a WhatsApp message which says Hugo Boss, you click on that, there's a WhatsApp chat that opens. You're writing to that person and that person is saying, and you say that I'm not ready with I'm not comfortable with the size, this is the first time I'm buying Hugo Boss. The person says, no problem sir, I'll get you a size below and a size above. And you say, I'm not very sure about the color. So which color are you looking at? I'm looking at blue. So I'll get you 3 shades of blue. That's what brands have to do to create that experience. But I'm saying all these things are now going to become granted.
Somebody asked me something, is this your first? And sometimes people ask questions like, you're trying to find this ideal job. To be honest, I have, wherever I've worked, whether it was writing algorithms or code and then doing consulting in McKinsey or working at Swarovski and now if it's at all, There's a lot of purpose you can find in everything. So that's number one. At this stage, for me, this question is a bit irrelevant because I'm just obsessed in doing everything to make this work. So it's a bit different from, say, previous life. There's no work-life balance. But that's the initial phase of a startup. So I have taken a conscious commitment that in a few years it's going to be like this. And somewhere something drives you. You believe that there's something you can do, and you would like to see. And then when you can get people around you. So today now, I think what motivates me is that when the team, like a brand which is just a set of ideas, was written on paper and then presentations and all that, and people talk about it and then they actually argue about it, that's extremely motivating. And then it starts becoming real. I think right now that's what it is.
I think for me, the real motivation has always been the passion to excel. Okay. So any job which I have done, I made sure that I am number one in that job. So that's the passion to excel. If I am selling tires, I have to be number one. I used to be number one. I'm selling cars, today I am number one in the country. On sales, specifically in the area which I handle. So I have never taken very comfortably a second position. I find very stuffed if I am number two. So I always strive for number one. I think that's the passion to excel every time. Very difficult to sustain number one position. Very difficult. It really hurts you sometimes. But that's something which drives you. So it's a balance, but now we have slowed down a little bit. But otherwise, that's the way to go for me. I'm not sure about you guys, but I think that's how we have been motivated. I have been motivated all these years. And luckily for me, I have the opportunity to see the world by previous organizations. I think that has really given me a lot of passion to travel still. I still travel around. And that gives me continuous improvement. I observe people, I meet people who are from different cultures, different languages. I speak many languages. But I think it's all the way you interact or integrate culturally globally.
Actually thinking for the part why I passed on to him and then he spoke and I said, how do you answer this question? It's a very tough question and I can say for the jargon of it anything, right? I can say anything, but happiness in me, around me, I think that's something which I definitely need. Right? Happiness can come from various things. It can come from constant growth, it can come from improvement, come from recognition, money, dreams getting done, travel, whatever. But I don't like spending time being unhappy. A day where I can be happy the entire day, I'm the most productive. And that's the thing, how happy can I be in the 365 days that I'm doing? It could be, for a startup, it could be, he goes through happiness whenever he sees his name somewhere. It could be one of the things that, maybe inspires, he doesn't, maybe.
The brand.
Brand name. No, brand name or, there are different people who get, there is, I'm saying there is something that, tickles everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm saying there is a common factor that you have to find that in the struggle that you want to enter and in the comparison that you will soon start getting, usko ye mila, usko ye mila, ये सबके साथ होता है. In the beginning of your career, all of us are not saints. We've crossed the stage where I used to be the best salesman in the company, I want to be the best territory, I want to be the best brand, want to win that award in the sale. But after a certain time, it goes off. So I'm not saying whether that's important or not important. Of course it's important. Because if you're not hungry for success, nothing is going to come for you. But happiness is a constant factor and try to have not only you yourself happy, people around you happy. Every time, so every morning when I walk into office, the first 1.5 hours, I am just observing if my team is happy. Because if they're not happy in that first 1.5, and I'm not saying for the sake of it, I actually go to them and say, kuch hua kya? Is there some problem? Because I know if they're not happy for the next 8 hours that they're in office, my brand is going to suffer. And at a certain stage, leaders are just sorry to use the word, fuck up managers.
Where because in Indian market there is a lot of ready-to-wear items. Are you forecasted?
So there are many things. First of all, we are very
because we have different cultures.
we have very strong global brands which do a lot of forecasting themselves. So if you are actually part of a proper buy, you will know these are the colors that are going to come in the future. These are the materials that are doing well in the future. And usually you will have niche brands who already started the journey 6 months back. Like a white sneaker which is very sustainable. Some very off-white might start it, and then Nike, Adidas or someone else could make it much bigger. So number one thing is that there is a very big global research which is happening. Second, there are focus group discussions, there are surveys that happen. We speak to people. I speak to my store team speak to consumers. Sir, aap kya kar rahe the? Where was your last holiday? That's how sales happens, by the way. It doesn't happen, sir, this is the product, this much quality of leather, this is the price. I'm telling you, this is the different way of sales. And not many people know this. The people who are not moving to that level are finding it difficult to achieve sales targets. But it is about, she comes into my store and I'm just having a lovely conversation with her. I'm looking, you're looking very nice today. Lockdown is closed. Have you traveled abroad or something? Yeah, I traveled. And of course, I can make out if a person has done or not. It's about in that conversation, अच्छा यार तू कोई product ही दिखा दे. So now she is comfortable with you, right? She wants to do the purchase. अच्छा कुछ दिखा दे. The effort, the salesperson who does the actual effort of selling ना, ये खरीद लो, ये खरीद लो, ये खरीद लो, उसके दिमाग में हमेशा sales target problem रहेगी.
वो कर नहीं पाता, वो धंधा नहीं कर पाता.
And that is I'm telling you, focus group discussions damn important. You need to constantly be in touch your customers. हमारे यहाँ पर there is a practice that we will keep talking to our customers. Second thing is we also keep seeing that within our Reliance system, like if he was a Hugo Boss customer, has he started going and buying Kanali? While we don't use one database versus the other because we have very strict confidentiality law, I cannot market to a Emporio Money customer, I cannot sell to a Xenia customer. But internally, the analysis team is seeing the trend क्या जा रहा है.